Like, we've all done Torghast now, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's fucking awesome. Like,
it
it
is.
reminds me almost like I remember in Antorus, I wanted to play my Demon Hunter because you had like the interaction between like the helmet and then like the legendaries and everything where you could just continuously eye beam. And it was like really cool whenever you were able to put all those pieces together. And I think Torghast kind of gives people that experience, but it's a little bit different every single time. And I liked all of the effects that I saw too. They were really cool.
Yeah. Do you think, do you think that going as deep as you possibly can, do you think pure deepness, going deeper, is enough of a reward in itself? Because that's something that potentially does allow for a lot of the replayability. I saw a lot of people in chat saying that they like to go deeper. They were talking about it, and it seems like it's a reward in multiple areas of life. Do you think that you can cap out some of the rewards in Torghast and then have that second layer that's just about going as deep as possible?
Yeah, literally just flexing. Um, so one of the things about visions is originally they were super fun to me. Like as I was first getting into them and I was getting the upgrades on my table, and I cleared it with one mask, two masks, three masks, four masks, and then eventually five masks. Like it was very exciting. I loved the fact that it was challenging. But then once I got my cloak to 15 and I had everything unlocked, everything kind of just felt like it was really, really trivial, and then it got really boring again. So that's one of the things that excites me about this content is it's going to remain challenging. And if I want to just kind of push the limits, of my character and test out like a new gear set or new trinkets, or just kind of fish for, the ideal run with new abilities and upgrades to my character, I think it's just going to be really, really fun for, the replayability of it. And kind of talking about gear, it seemed like, for at least from what I experienced, the upgrades you get they're massive. Like 15% increase in your haste,
It's ridiculous.
30% on your mastery. So I feel like what they've done is they've created this environment where you can go in and not have the best gear, but if you kind of work through the lower levels, you can, get on kind of an
That's a
even
really good
play.
insight. I like that a lot. So you're saying like people that have worse gear, it would be easier for them to like kind of catch up effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really good.
With Torghast, I I feel like rewards could potentially be maybe a problem, Asmon, because I think as the game gets more and more of these variants that you can play, whether it's mythic dungeons, obviously raiding been a core
Yeah.
feature in the game for a really long time. It's like what should reward what, and how do we avoid situations to keep the rewards fresh, like Titan forging that we've seen in the past.
Well, I was actually having this conversation like 10 minutes ago with my stream, and we were talking about how would we actually reward and incentivize Torghast, because I think that if you were able to just continuously do it over and over and over, it would you'd run into a situation where you would have to get all the gear pretty much as early as possible to meet the standards of the other people in your guild and just in the community in general, because you'd have a comparative disadvantage with them. And then also, if you just give them everybody, you just don't have it at all. You have an issue kind of like visions, where we don't really have a lot of options to do those as often as we would want. And every single time that you do them, if you do it wrong, it's massively punishing. So I think that really Shadowlands, one of the main things that Blizzard needs to figure out how to address is how to manage people's expectations in terms of how often will they be able to do content with the rewards, and also how to prevent people from burning themselves out of content, which are two things that I think happen a lot.
Are there any big things that you want to see as rewards potentially though in Torghast, Fen? Like, is there anything where you're like, this makes sense to have this reward be in the game in this avenue of play?
That yeah, I'm not entirely sure what they should do for rewards for this place. So far, I think I've read that they're going to be adding like crafting reagents from Torghast. I think you can get like some powerful
Well, you
crafting
get
reagents
the.
when I.
Did you guys get the legendary reagents?
So
Yes.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
that is for crafting, right?
Yeah, you use those, and you're able to craft certain items that are legendary pieces of gear. And
That's
I'm
really cool.
assuming, did you guys see the tweet? I think it was from Holinka or someone, and they were asking what set bonuses did you previously like, or trinket affixes did you previously like that you'd like to see put back into the game. And I think that's what they're looking at doing with the new legendaries, is like using the new legendaries to implement old affixes and old trinkets and tier set bonuses back into the game.
I think that that's a really good line to be following right
Yeah,
now. I mean, obviously, we know that gear has the potential, based off of what we heard Ian say as well in the interview with Sloot, which is kind of one of the main points of contact that we really do have right now. We heard that gear has the potential to really level up in what it's offering as the expansion moves forward too, which I do like. I think one of the things with Azerite that I was screaming the entire time was just like, hey, look, Azerite happened. That's totally fine. Can we just get tier sets in the middle of the expansion? It looks like by the second tier, there's a very real chance that we'll have tier sets, which I think is pretty awesome. How do you feel about players needing to potentially still play, even in Shadowlands, all elements of the game to be a completely min-maxed character? Do you think somebody who really loves PvP should be able to get everything in PvP, or do you think that it is good that they need to step into raid and potentially get some gear from there? Maybe step into Torghast, maybe step into Mythic Dungeons. How do you feel about the diversity of content a player needs to do to be fully min-maxed?
I mean, that's another tweet that I sent out. I had the realization. I don't know why it took so long for me to think about it, but realistically, I could play BFA all day, every day, clear the Mythic Raid, do my visions, cap in PvP, do Mythic Plus, and I could actually never get the corruption that I'm looking for, which is pretty insane to me with how much I play. I mean, I still have yet to this day gotten my best corruption for PvE or PvP. I haven't gotten a single piece of any of them, which is it's pretty outrageous. I know I have friends that I raid with that complain that they haven't gotten a single upgrade in 9 or 10 weeks of playing, and I just feel like the randomness it's out of control. So I definitely hope something like that gets addressed.
The only big thing that one of my big takeaways instantly when I was playing it was, I hope that the resource, the Phantasmario or whatever the heck it's called, I hope that they actually make it so you just automatically get that. I mean, that's obviously not a huge deal, but I feel like having to loot each time is pretty annoying. I hope that that's just instantly placed into your backpack as you're moving through.
Oh, kind of like how in Visions you get the mementos for killing the mobs.
Yeah, I mean, my did you play Metamorphosis at all in PoE?
Yes, and I remember before they allowed you to automatically pick up the organs, it was obnoxious and annoying, and it took half the map.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen,
Yeah,
basically, in these towers.
I'm curious, Vin, what your take on it is. So Visions, we can only do them, every so often. Mythic Plus, we can do them all the time. How would you like to see the replayability of Torghast implemented?
That is a really good question, because
I
now
know.
I feel like, here's the thing. So right now with Visions, I don't mind doing them. The way they are, on like if I have one character, it's not too bad. So like on my main mage, getting enough coalescing visions to go in and buy a key and go in, it doesn't feel bad at all. But what ends up happening for people who like to play alts, like myself, I feel like I've really burnt myself out having to go, acquire this currency on multiple characters and then do visions on multiple characters and basically have to catch up all the technology, like elite extermination, and basically, I don't know. I just feel like the second time you do it, it isn't nearly as fun. Mythic Plus it's nice too, that you can kind of, consistently do it and get rewards from it. But you only really get that big reward at the end of the week with the one chest. For Torghast, I feel like I would like to see it be one of those things where you can do it a decent amount, not just like once or twice a week, but I don't have a specific number in mind, but you have to be careful that you're not going to be seeing people in there spamming it all day, every day, especially depending on what the rewards are going to be looking like.
I think a lot of the people in my stream were saying 7 to 10 times a week, which I think is kind of towards the high end. But at the same time, people do want to be able to do it, and we also don't know how long it takes. So, for example, like the Mage Tower was like it was like a 3-minute thing, and if you only could do that once a day or 10 times a week, that would be bad. So it depends on how long we're gonna have to wait, or how long it's gonna take.
One thing I actually do like about Horrific Visions and the way they deliver rewards is that it kind of scales down. So, I mean, if you want to fish for like a certain corruption, you can. So you can do, the one corruption, you get the 470 item level if you do a 5 mask. And the second time you do it, it's going to be a 465. And the third, it just keeps scaling down. So, I mean, you can keep farming it to try to like fish for a specific corruption, but you only have a few chances to really get like a high item level piece. And I don't entirely mind that. I mean, obviously corruption is its own thing, but just for like getting a reward from it, you know, the more you do it in a week, the rewards kind of scale down, so you don't feel obligated to have to spam it, you know,
Oh, yeah,
10 times in a week.
I like what you're saying about that a lot. Rich, what do you think?
Uh, I will say with Torghast, it reminds me of how BGs used to feel potentially.
Okay.
And back in the day, and you guys will remember this, there are probably some Zoomers that didn't experience it and they won't know how it actually felt. But basically, how it went was you got all of your gear and the other aspects of the game. And then you said, I'm going to show every single person in the World of Warcraft just how big my dick is. And you would go into a battleground and you would just tear people apart and they would stand no chance at all. And that was the true end game victory lap. That was the enjoyment. And I look at Torghast and I go, wait, I'm going to be able to do it again. It's not necessarily against other players, but I'm going to be able to push deeper into the tower. I'm going to be able to make stranger things happen, because even with just a limited amount of gameplay, I feel like we pretty quickly saw that the rewards on floor 25 were way sicker than the rewards on floor 1 or 2. I'm pretty sure every time I actually, just to check rewards, because I wanted to see them and I knew we had a limited amount of time to test before the show, I just kept restarting runs. Like I let Ven play and I watched them play, and then I just kept restarting level 25 runs to see what some of the different rewards were. Every single level 25 reward was incredibly cool. It was like making your some of your abilities. Instant cast was a pretty common one. Increasing the amount of I was playing on a warlock, so spells actually increasing the amount of physical absorb that they were giving me, or just absorb that they were giving me rather. They were big rewards, whereas floor 1, a lot of the rewards were just straight up getting the phantasmoria or whatever it's called. So I like the idea that you can push deeper to make crazier runs and actually have it as the end game reward in and of itself. Something like that, though, begs the question of how repeatable should it be? Because if I want to go in there all the time and spam it, is that bad? Can it become too saturated?
I think it could be to an extent, especially if, you know, it's like it's very punishing if you do it wrong, and then players feel like they have to hyper optimize it in the same way of like Mythic Plus. So I don't know exactly. I think the problem really that Blizzard's going to run into there is that any decision they make it's not going to make everyone happy. It's like there are some people that want to just be able to do it as many times as they possibly want, and then other people who want to have it be like a once a week thing. But I do think what Venruki was saying about alts is really important, because if you look at, for example, Mists of Pandaria, in Mists of Pandaria, after you got exalted with one character, you were able to use a commendation on your entire account, so it helped you get the reputation on the other characters more quickly. And now it feels like with all of the chores and everything like that, they've basically designed BFA to only be playable with one character, whereas for other times, other expansions, you could play multiple alts and just keep up with them relatively easily because you didn't have all of these secondary progression systems. And I don't even really think a lot of the secondary progression systems are bad, but if they want people to enjoy playing alts, I think that they should be made account-wide. And that's why I was glad to see them at least take a step with making the account-wide essences, even though I didn't really like the solution that they came up with because it wasn't truly account-wide. But I do think they need to do more to make the alts more accessible, and it's easier, and you don't have like all these other weird things you have to catch up with on your alts. Like, why not make more things account-wide? With like all this stuff, like Venruki, like how do you feel? Are you excited to see Shadowlands, like overall?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
100%.
like hopeful?
Yeah, definitely hopeful. Like I said, everything
Yeah.
I've seen so far, especially just the vendors and being able to get like some level of deterministic gearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, because right now it's a little bit rough. I mean, BFA has definitely had its moments, but
Yeah.
overall, I would say it's probably not my favorite expansion. Was a
Okay,
good
you
way
were
of
gonna
saying
say
it.
the worst, weren't you?
I might have been thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.